Welcome to Panthers training camp just off Mid Street. Anish Shroff with Tom Luganbill from ESPN. We're going to take you around to different position groups. We're into week 2. We are 1 week from the first preseason game next Friday at Bank of America Stadium against Cleveland. We're going to watch a lot of the defense today, Tom, and you've seen a lot of these guys, not just in college but in high school. For starters, 3-4 defense, year 3 of this system. When you just kind of scale back and look at the ingredients that you need in a 3-4, a nose tackle like free agent Bobby Brown seems to be the ideal guy to plug in to eat up 2 blockers.
Well, that's what he's got to do. He's responsible for 2 gaps and what's called a zero technique, right? So he's got to be able to hold the point of attack to allow the linebackers to flow off of him. If they allow offensive linemen to get up to the second level and you're a 340-pounder there over the center, you got problems on defense. And so, this is a defense a year ago. Listen, you give up the most yards the most points in the history of the NFL. I think second in most rushing yards. So there's nowhere to go but up. And then in order to do that, you got to retool your defensive front.
Yeah, so you get Bobby Brown in free agency, and then you bring back Derrick Brown. And even if Derrick Brown isn't the Derrick Brown he was 2 years ago, if there's a little bit of a buildup coming back from the knee injury, you get 70% of Derrick Brown. Yeah. It's a pretty good starter in the NFL.
You're darn right it is. And I think what that's going to do is it not just adds talent and brings back depth to the front, it brings back the leadership. I think it brings back confidence because you have a guy that can be so disruptive. And to your point, is he 70%? Is he 80%? Is he 100%? I think when you add him and 3 or 4 other guys now that are going to be in a mix to be the starters up front, compared to what the depth is right now in camp that were starters a year ago that probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah, and there's going to be some young guys we'll be watching too. Jaden Crumity was a draft pick a year ago, and then Cam Jackson, 5th rounder out of Florida. Again, another big space eater who can back up Bobby Brown.
Well, that's the thing, is the rotation. Remember, when you're going to play at that weight, you're going to play at that size, you're not going to be an every down guy, and you're going to have to be able to come up with a way to rotate, not have drop-off when it comes to that particular position. Because, again, as you mentioned, championship defenses start from the inside out, from the middle out. Well, you got to have 2-man depth there without a drop-off in production and talent at the nose.
As we're watching some of these D-line drills, what are coaches looking at, especially for guys who might be pushing for a spot on the 2 deep, pushing for a starting job, or just pushing for a spot on the 53?
Well, right now what they're doing is they're working on the sled bags, and they're trying to keep pad level low. They want to explode through the hips, and you want to be able to, again, this is a bit of an anchor to be able to engage the blocker, control the blocker, and then the quickness and the burst and the first step get off. Because, hey, listen, quickest man wins, lowest man wins, and you're constantly trying to maintain that low pad level and explosion into the blocker.
Yeah, a couple of guys that, they'll have flanking the nose tackle at D-end. And, the role of D-end in a 3-4 is a little different, but we mentioned Derrick Brown. Ashawn Robinson's the top returning tackler, 80 tackles last year, 5.5 sacks. Then you add Turk Wharton really came on at the end of last year for the Chiefs, including the postseason, 6 sacks in his last 8 games. Again, another guy still in his mid-20s with quads the size of legitimate sequoias.
Well, you've got guys that have come over through free agency that have Super Bowl rings. Guys that have tasted it, they've experienced it. You bring that in, they know what it takes. They know what it's going to require to be that type of player. Look at Wharton's lower body, as you just mentioned, just an absolute anchor. Look at his calves. Look at his thighs. This is a guy that's going to be very, very difficult to move off the football. This is another, using the chutes right there. This is a drill that linemen hate. Anytime you're being forced to keep your pad level down through the chutes right there, it can be a very awkward position, but it's the only way to play the game successfully.
I was on Mac and Bone this morning, and we got into a conversation about Turk Wharton's quads. He squats about 800 pounds. His max leg press is however many plates the leg press can hold or however much weight the machine can hold.
Listen, I'm telling you, and those types of guys, that translates into the ability to anchor at the point of attack, hold the line, be able to get blockers off of you because of that strength and explosiveness.
And here's the trickle-down effect. You've got Brown and A'Shawn Robinson and Turk Wharton, Cam Jackson, a rookie the Panthers hope. He factors into the equation. Take guys like Shai Tuttle and LeBron Ray.
Yep.
Because of all the injuries, those two started 24 games last year. Now you can bring them in for a rotational series, 5 to 10 snaps. That speaks to the depth that has been created up front. And I look at what Dan Morgan did last offseason. They wanted to address the offensive line. This offensive line went from being the worst unit in the league to one of the better units in the league.
And everybody's back?
Everybody's back up front. Now the idea is to do the same thing on the defensive line. And Dan Morgan, linebacker, right? Old school approach to football, but it works. Build from the trenches out.
Yeah, that's where the game is won. That's the difference between good and great at any level of football. And you talk about LeBron Ray, you talk about Shai Tuttle. The good news off from those two guys and their performance a year ago is you got a full evaluation and a large sample size to know exactly what they're capable of. And now that you're better around those two, how do you implement them? Plug them in here. Spell a guy here, spell a guy there. But there's a big difference up front between Bobby Brown and Shai Tuttle when it comes to physical dimensions.
And when you talk about better around them, we drift our attention to the edge. A lot was made of the Panthers' pass rush last year. One interesting nugget, when DJ Wonnum came back from injury, if you look at the last 8 games when Wonnum played, the Panthers had 22 sacks. In the 9 that he didn't play, they only had 10 sacks. So he did impact the pass rush, not only with his numbers, but impacted the entire pass rush. But here's what helps the pass rush. If you could stop the run.
Yeah.
Carolina gave up 6 yards per play on first down last year.
Yeah.
If you're a D coordinator, all of a sudden, 2nd and 4, 3rd and 2, you're now down to the kids menu. You don't have the full menu. You can't unleash the blitz if you're not playing with a lead in the second half. It impacts what you can do with the pass rush. I think sometimes we forget football is a lot of what happened, which impacts what will happen.
Well, there's no question. And, when everybody talks about stopping the run, you got to stop the run. Well, you got to understand what happens when you do that in the trickle-down effect that it has on the succeeding downs that follow. So, everybody talks about, well, we got to get ahead of the chains. We want to get 3 or 4 on first down. Well, that changes your second down call. 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6 is not the same as 2nd and 11, right? So now let's fast forward that to 3rd down because everybody's saying on defense, got to get off the field on 3rd down. Well, on offense, we convert 3rd downs, we maintain possession of the ball. Well, 3rd and 7 is different than 3rd and 2. And so it starts up front, stopping the run.
Yeah, so DJ Wonnum is back as one of the edge rushers. They got a couple of rookies, too. We'll show you those guys, Nick Scorton, Princely Umanmielen, and then Pat Jones, who played with Wonnum in Minnesota, had 7 sacks, a breakout year for the Vikings. He was signed in the offseason. You might see him at a local fishing hole here in the area. I had a chance to catch up with him earlier this week. Before we get into football, let's start with something near and dear to you.
Yeah.
Tell me how you got into fishing.
So my uncles actually got me into it when I was a kid. They was real big, heavy fishermen, so they got me out there. I got a little picture of me when I was like 4 years old, and I caught my first fish. Ever since then, I've just been hooked to it, and I've just been out there fishing every day.
What's your best fish story?
My best fish story, probably the one that's on my Instagram. You got to type in and tune into it. I was in Texas. We was fishing for alligator gar. I had caught like a 140-pound alligator gar, tried pulling it up on the boat. When I was pulling up on the boat, it charged at me. I fell off the boat.
Hold on. You caught an actual alligator?
It was an alligator gar. Yeah, so like the fish, it was probably like 5, 6 feet long. Yeah.
And it pulled you off the boat?
Yeah, you got to go and look at my Instagram. It's on my Instagram.
You're a big dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Have you and Xavier Leggett bonded over some of those common outdoor activities?
We talked about it a little bit. We ain't gone did nothing yet, though.
If he takes you hunting, you got to take him fishing.
Yeah, for sure. We could do that for sure.
What about horseback riding?
Yeah, I'll mess with the horse. I rode horses a couple times. It's cool, too. We definitely got to do that.
So give me your fishing spot that you found locally.
Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that.
You don't want everybody coming there.
No, I can't do that.
Is it a fruitful spot? Do you find a lot of fish there?
Yeah, it's a great spot. It's a good spot. I can't. Yeah, you feel me? I can't give you my spot. I can tell you what lake it's on though, but it's on Lake Wiley somewhere. I ain't gonna tell you where though, but
he's gonna keep it under wraps for now. You're gonna be fishing for quarterbacks too.
Oh, yeah.
You know this team wanted to get better rushing the passer this year. With what they've done up front, how do you feel that's going to help you guys on the edge?
I feel like it's going to be real good. I feel like we got great additions up front. Right now, we just all trying to get to know each other better and just mesh together and learn how to rush and work off each other. I feel like once that happens, it's going to be something big.
Playing with DJ Wanham in Minnesota, what did he tell you about coming here?
He just told me about how good the staff was, how they were real great people, how we had great leaders. And once he told me that, I knew it was a place for me to be.
What's been your impressions of the two rookie pass rushers?
They're great. They just be willing to learn. They come out here ready to work hard every day. So it's just good having them with us.
Pat Jones, thank you.
For sure, appreciate you.
Again, Pat Jones coming off season with the Vikings where he had a career-high 7 sacks and expected to be one of the starting edge rushers opposite DJ Wanham. What the Panthers like, they spent their second and third picks in the draft on a couple of rookies. Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M, Princely Iman-Mielin, who played at Ole Miss last time out, both at previous stops as well. Let's start with Scorton. This was a guy, played with his hand in the ground at 285 for A&M last year. When he was at Purdue, more of a stand-up outside linebacker, edge rusher, played in the 258, 260 range. He's at about 265 right now. But first, what's required of the outside linebacker in a 3-4? What is on these rookies' plates?
Well, first and foremost, you're having to pull double duty, right? If you're going to be in a stand-up position, you're going to be expected to have to rush the passer. You're going to have to be expected to play in space, right? And then there's going to be times where if you're going to move down, like a Nick Scorton, when he's at 285, he's probably lining up over the tight end or the offensive tackle in a 5 technique or so, and now he's got to have that 185 pounds to be able to anchor at the point of attack. So finding out where he fits, I think the beauty of this, when you look at Princely, you look at Nick Scorton, they've played in a stand-up role, they've played with their hand down, so they've got scheme versatility.
Princely Iman-Mielin, there's a lot of chatter about his bend, his spin moves, his explosiveness.
Yeah.
In some of Ole Miss's biggest games this season, he flashed on tape against some of the better opponents, the Georgia game especially.
Well, he's one of those guys that's twitchy. And when you're twitchy off the edge and you can maintain that first step advantage, you're going to pressure the quarterback. You're going to affect the quarterback. Now, you talk about that term bend, and we hear that all the time. It's the ability for tall, long guys to be able to be flexible and bend and contort in a short area of space without having stiffness. And that's not easy to do, especially when you look at the size of most of these prospects. To be able to keep your pad level low, get skinny, and work the edge, that's something of value that every coach, every scout's looking for on edge guys.
Yeah, and then you bring back DJ Wanham, who by default becomes the elder statesman of the group.
Yeah, well, listen, if you can get some help opposite of him, and now all of a sudden you're not just worried about the edge that Wanham's on, you're worried about the other edge. And I think that's where, as you grow through the draft, you go through free agency, you're trying to figure out how to avoid somebody going away from your best player. Don't allow that.
And with the depth that they have this year at outside linebacker compared to last year, one of the guys who's going to be fun to watch in camp is DJ Johnson. This was a former third-round pick, somebody the Panthers a few years ago traded up to get out of Oregon. Always a guy who physically had all the tools, but now you go into year 3 in the NFL, and it's a deeper room when it comes to edge rushers. So far, DJ Johnson's been getting some praise from some of the coaches in camp, but it seems there's a little bit on him now to produce and perform in preseason.
Well, I think he realizes that, okay, we're 3 years in now. The production has to start being there, and it's got to start being there consistently. You bring in some of the free agents, you bring in some of the early young draftees, and now what happens when you're dealing with salary cap and you're dealing with decisions to make come cut time, your production has to warrant you being kept around. And I think that's the big thing for DJ Johnson, to have his most productive camp.
You got the gloves on there, the pads on there, so it's the old boxing drill.
Working the hands, man. You're always working the hands. You've got a plan. You've got a counter to that plan. You've got a reaction to that plan. You hear coaches talk about quick hands versus heavy hands. Now you talk about a guy, once he gets his hands on you and you can't get off of him. Here they're working the quick side of it and the explosive side of it to be able to avoid allowing an offensive line to get their hands on them.
How many moves do you want to see a pass rusher have?
Well, I think there's a lot in the tool bag there. You've got the rip, you've got the arm over, you've got the swim, you've got the ghost. I could go up and down. You've got the ability to bull rush and get your hands inside. That's kind of I don't want to say it's a lost art, but those who can do it can put guys on skates.
We just don't see edge guys as big as they used to be. That's part of the reason.
Well, yeah, and that's how, when everything, even at whether it's the high school, the college, or the NFL level, and everything became more spread out, right? So what happened is you're now having defenses go, well, we can't play with those guys size and weight-wise because we're going to be caught in space all the time. And if you look at the NFL right now, and you look at Baltimore, you look at Philadelphia, what they did is they looked at everybody on defense in the league and said, well, they're not very big over there. Let's line up in 2 and 3 tight ends, and we'll get an unbalanced line. We'll just run it down their throat.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. A year ago, 2023, so the previous season, not a single rusher in the NFL had 300 or more attempts.
Yeah.
Last year, for the first time in more than a decade, 6 running backs had 300-plus rushing yards. It may be signaling a trend, 300-plus rushing attempts. It may be signaling a trend. We're coming back to the run game. Everyone's smaller and faster.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be bigger and stronger. Let's make this thing a phone booth fight.
Absolutely. They're gonna narrow the field this way, and they're gonna put guys who are really athletic and can run and are long, and you love all of those things when you're spread out, but when you get into tight quarters, it's tough for those guys to hold up.
Let's move inside with the linebacker position, and there's no way to sugarcoat this. The Panthers are thin on the inside. They've got Christian Roseboom, who they signed from the Rams. Trevin Wallace, back, second-year guy out of Kentucky, thrown into the fire last year. But Josie Jewell, he was let go, would not have been able to play to begin the season as it stands. Not a lot of depth behind the top two. But again, when you look at just the nature of that 3-4 defense, we hear so often, hey, that inside linebacker position in this defense, their production is more a product of what happens from the front three.
Well, there's no question. And then the two B gaps, the gap between your guard and your center, opposite of where you got zero nose technique that we talked about lining up, what you've got to be able to do is you got to be able to play off that initial block up the middle off of your nose, but then be able to understand angle, fits, pursuit, because you have an offensive guard that's going to release up the field, and he's responsible for you. So how you flow to the football, the right technique you take to it, and then you've got to be able to anchor at the point of attack. Bottom line, I think this is going to be the most challenged position on the Panthers roster this coming fall.
Why do you say that? Just because of the depth?
The depth, and having somebody, not having a Josie Jewell, right? That guy that you look at and say, oh, he's done it before. We know him. We know what we're going to get out of him. And so I think this is something that you'll see unfold and start to evolve throughout the year.
I think one of the things that we're curious to see is camp unfold. Certainly, if he plays in the preseason games. Trevin Wallace is a rookie last year. There was a point where Shaq Thompson was hurt, when Josie Jewell was hurt, and I remember the game. It was at Chicago. Trevin Wallace getting the start, and not only the start, he's the green dot. And we saw what the Bears tried to do. They went quick, they varied their tempo, and they put his head on a swivel. It was an extremely tough spot for a rookie being the green dot. But what does that entail? We hear that, yes, he's the guy that communicates and gets people lined up. What does that really entail on the field? and with the line of communication to the sideline?
Well, it makes it far more difficult when the offense is going fast and when they're trying to speed things up. They want to limit your ability to communicate. They want to limit your ability to get lined up correctly. The vast majority of defensive football, Anish, is get your cleats in the ground and line up properly. If you're not lined up properly, you're already on the downside. So I think that person that wears the green dot has to be able to process quickly. He's got to be able to manage the players around him, and he's got to be able to get everybody lined up and do it in short order. And that takes communication skills, it takes listening skills, and it takes football instincts.
You're looking at John Radigan, who was a special teamer last season, did start a game for the Panthers. He, Claude, and Sherilis amongst the guys competing to be that backup linebacker to Wallace and Roseboom to begin the season. So, yes, I think depth's a concern there as of right now. But that's also a position where you get down to the end of the season, end of the preseason, teams are trimming their rosters from 53. That seems to be a position where usually you can go find at least some veteran who's going to be available if need be.
Yeah, somebody with 3-4 years, played some meaningful snaps, large sample size to evaluate. That's going to be a primary priority when you get towards the end of camp. If you're looking to do that, you got to have a sample size that says, is this guy better than what we have?
Yeah. Let's go to the safety position. That room has been almost entirely rebuilt from a year ago. Xavier Woods is gone. The big free agent signing was Trayvon Merrick coming over from the Raiders. When he signed, I had a friend from the Raiders text me, you're going to love this guy. He can play in the box. He's physical. He's going to help out against the run. Big hitter. So he'll play one safety position. And then the other safety position, this is one of the battles in camp. You got Damani Richardson, who had some nice moments as an undrafted rookie out of A&M last year. And then Lathan Ransom. Rookie out of Ohio State, fifth-round pick. There's a lot of excitement around Ransom. Let's start there.
Well, he's athletic and he's rangy. I had an opportunity to broadcast a couple of his games during his college career. He's also somebody that can get people lined up. He's a voice on the back end of the safety position. And you're right. We talk about the lack of experience and depth at linebacker. Now you've had a new face, as you mentioned, coming over in free agency. There's Mooring right there. Trayvon Mooring. So there's bodies here. There's a lot of guys to choose from with an awful lot of range. But I think Lathan Ransom was a steal from a draft perspective.
Yeah, Ransom was a fifth-rounder, won a national championship at Ohio State. And then Damani Richardson was a guy this time last year. His name kept on surfacing. And the Panthers realized, hey, we can't hide this guy because all he did was make plays, come up with interception in camp. You had media members tweeting it out. Made some plays in the preseason, got a chance with the team, and then late in the season, they threw him into the fire, started a few games, had a couple of double-digit tackle games. Two-time captain, Texas A&M, and a guy who came to the NFL with a reputation in college as a ball hawk.
Well, listen, year 1 to year 2, you're going to see tremendous growth, right? Especially if you've had a taste of it as a rookie and been thrown into the fire and had to learn on the fly. He did that, as you mentioned, so double-digit tackle games and confidence after playing. I think that's the thing. Like, he comes into camp this year a completely different guy mentally than he was a year ago.
What is the biggest requirement of the safety position? Let's go free safety and strong safety individually in a 3-4 scheme.
Well, the strong safety is going to have to be a primary run support player. I mean,
that's Merrick.
That's Merrick. He's got to be the guy that can play near or within the box. He's got to be able to have the correct run fits, leverage the football. I think from the free safety perspective, you got to have a little more range, probably run just a little bit better, the ability to play in space more so now in the game than ever before because of what the game has become. You got to be able to play a split half off the safety or off the hash as a split safety. You got to be able to play the center field spot. That requires a ton of range and ability to play in the open field.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun position battle to watch. Damani Richardson, Lathan Ransom, who could be that starting safety? You've got the veteran Nick Scott, who was brought back. Scott also adds a ton of value on special teams. Let's move to the cornerback position. I think the one constant here is if J.C. Horn is healthy, it's one side of the field you don't have to worry about.
Correct.
He is that good.
Yeah.
Obviously, staying on the field at points in his career has been an issue, but if he is healthy, man, that solves a lot of problems for Carolina.
Oh, there's no question. And now what you've got to do is figure out exactly how you're going to look opposite of him and then establish your depth. What's your rotational depth when you're in nickel, you're in dime, who's going on the field? I think that J.C. Horn at full health is a year in and year out Pro Bowl.
No doubt.
Year in and year out Pro Bowl. You don't have players with his length and his height that can run the way he does. He's got a lot of what Patrick Peterson had as a young player in the National Football League. He's exciting and still has a very high ceiling.
He's big, he's tall, he's fast, he's physical. And then opposite J.C. Horn, one of the great offseason moves Dan Morgan made last year, they turned a 7th-round pick a year ago, Michael Barrett, the linebacker out of Michigan, traded him to Seattle for Mike Jackson, affectionately known here as Mike Jack. Mike Jack stepped in opposite J.C. Horn and, again, was one of the top guys in the league when it came to passes defended. The question for the Panthers, okay, you get beyond J.C., you get beyond Mike Jack. Shaw Smith-Wade penciled in right now as the starting nickel. He's a second-year guy out of Washington State. Still a bit of a question. Yeah. Maybe he's a surprise. Shamar Bartholomew was a guy that impressed the Panthers when he was with the Jets in a joint practice. A lot of waiver claims on Bartholomew. The Panthers got him last year, rostered him all season. There's excitement about him, but outside of Week 18 against Atlanta, we didn't see a whole lot of him. So not a lot of known commodities once you get past the top two.
No, there's not, and that's what training camp's all about. That's what preseason games become so important. You say, well, how important is a preseason game? Depends on where you are in the pecking order. Right now, if you're a defensive secondary player for the Carolina Panthers, preseason games are unbelievably important in terms of performance, sample size, and production. And so I agree. I think Mike Jackson's interesting because I feel like he's kind of a safety playing corner, that type of mentality, toughness, rugged, physical, those types of attributes out on the perimeter, which if you're going to be in the boundary, all right, which oftentimes you're going to be, that's a great attribute to have.
And then when you look at the nickel position, which will be interesting to watch as we move through training camp, given the way the NFL is, we're a 3-wide receiver set, 11 personnel. That's more or less the norm for most teams. It's not like it used to be where the nickel was a specialty guy. Most teams, even teams in a 3-4, Panthers played a ton of base nickel last year.
Yeah, listen, you're almost forced to, all right? You mentioned the personnel groupings, the formations, spreading the field horizontally. It's just very difficult to play with minimal cover guys on the field, regardless of what the structure of your front is. You could be a 4-man front, you could be a 3-man front, you could be a 50 front. It doesn't matter, but the people having to play in space better have some cover skills.
You are one lucky son of a gun because it has been blazing hot here at practice. You picked the day when we have shade, we have a breeze, the temperatures are down a little bit. Appreciate you coming out, Tom.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me.
He's Tom Luginbill. I'm Anish Shroff. We've got 2 more of these practice live streams, August 11th, August 19th. Don't forget, FanFest is Saturday. That's tomorrow evening at Bank of America Stadium. Only $5 to get in, so you got FanFest. You're going to get to see a little more. Hopefully you can come out for FanFest, and then the first preseason game, Carolina, home against Cleveland. I'm sure there'll be a lot of media here for that quarterback for Cleveland that was supposed to go first or second, Shedeur Sanders, who ended up going in the 5th round. But Panthers and the Browns will be in that first preseason game 1 week from today.